Today I will explain what the process I went through to create my short animation film titled Round Jon. I'll start with both the idea creation and go into the creation of the actual image and finishing up with the animation process and filming. There may be some technical terms that you don't quite understand, and I apologize in advance, and I will try to explain them as best I can while they are being demonstrated. If you have any questions, please comment below, and I hope that this will be a pleasant experience and a little insight into some things that we may not all be familiar with. So this is the making of Round Jon. The first step in any creation is sketching. The character Round Jon I created many years ago for a project where I illustrated a book entitled Round Jon and the Land of the Ice Cream King. And in this book, it consisted of Round Jon, who we've seen in this animated film, and kind of how his love of ice cream converted into a transportation to this magical land filled with ice cream. And the story kind of resulted in, it focused on how his love of something turned into sort of a gluttonous act, and eventually became obsession. And it turns out that his obsession kind of turned into this sort of materialized version of fear and of these sort of negative feelings, which, as you can guess, resulted in Round Jon being eaten by ice cream, that which he loved so much. The witches came from a base of sketches that I've been working on for many years. This idea of these sort of figures that emerge from the woods and emerge from fear as a sort of materialization of ideas, so to say. The process in which I created the actual image derived from a process in printmaking that spans back to be considered one of the oldest processes in art and in printmaking, and that is woodcut, or this relief, as some may know it. And the idea is taking a sort of medium and creating a relieved surface, so something that is in relief, so above the rest of the block. And then with that, you can roll black ink over top of it, and then press paper onto it, and in a sense print it in multiple variations of the same image. So to start with this, you start with a good old block of wood. Now I carved from solid pine. It's a premium sort of pine, solid piece of wood cut from the center of a tree. And this kind of prevents it from forming any sort of thick knots that can't be carved through. So once you got your wood, you're going to sand it down so it's nice and smooth. I prefer to use higher grit, such as 150. I use sanding blocks, then moving down into fine, so 320. Once you get that all sanded nice and smooth, what you can do next is you can either draw your image onto the block or transfer it. So we'll just kind of draw something down here in this corner, a little circle. Or maybe a smiley face, how about that? Now I got my image on here. You guys can see that nice and small in the corner. So then, normally what I would do is I would take what's called shellac, and I would coat the block in it so that it's nice and smooth and even. It gets all of the wood grain nice and smooth. But for what I did for Round Jon is I kind of embraced that sort of wood grain in the wood. And that's, if you've seen the video, you can kind of see that. The next step is carving the blocks. So you're taking these extremely sharp carving tools that are really small, that look something like this. This is a U-gouge. And some smaller tools, such as this. It's a V-gouge, really small. And I'm going to carve away everything that I want to be white. So everything that I want to be black on this little smiley face, I'm going to leave on the print. And after you do that, you get a result that looks like this. This is just an old block, but you can kind of see, if you look at it sideways, you can see that this relief surface is lower down than this smooth surface on top. So these are the actual blocks from Round Jon. Kind of move these off to the side. So these are the actual blocks. You can see they've already been inked up and printed multiple times, but I'm just going to run through the printing process again so you guys can all see that. But you can kind of tell where it's nice and smooth on top, and this kind of weird surface is where it was carved away with carving tools. There's the first block, and the second block looks like that. So all the characters in this film were produced by 2 blocks, printed multiple times in black ink. So the next step is actually printing the physical paper cutouts. I'm just going to demonstrate on this block right here. So I got my slab. I'm going to take oil-based ink. This is just a type of printmaking ink. It's oil-based, so it's hard to wash off, but I'm just going to grab a little bit because I'm not printing pretty much. Put it out. So then I'm going to take a roller, also called a brayer. It's just a rubber roller. I'm going to get ink all over that. So then once my roller is nice and inky, I'm just going to go right over top. So I'm just going to print these 3 heads up here. So now I have my roller all nice and inky. I'm just going to go right over top of these with black ink. You might be able to tell that it's getting darker around here. So I'm just going to do it a couple more times since it's our first print. Multiple directions. Okay, so once that's done, I'm going to take my paper, little scrap of paper, go place that right on top. Make sure I stick it down to that whole entire surface. And then the next step can be done with a lot of different materials. I, being a printmaker, have a professional Baron. So it looks like that. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to rub the back of the paper. So you can use a spoon or any sorts of material for that. So now I'm pressing the paper into the inked up surface so that the ink transfers from the wood to my paper. Make sure that this print get all the little spots in there. Pull it off. And there we have a nice finished print. The next step is taking the finished prints like this on sheets of paper, different ones, and cutting out the individual parts. So you cut them out and you get little Round Jon's head, you get hands, you get the witches' heads and faces, the witches' bodies, and once you can do that, then we can start animating. The animation process consisted of taking photographs using this copy stand. Just copy stand, which attaches the camera here. Move up and down, I can zoom in and out. And because of the massive amount of lighting from the windows, I was only able to photograph at night. So it just consisted of puppet animation with still pieces, as well as manipulation, such as the blood, by paintbrushes. And once all that was photographed, it consisted of roughly about 500 specific frames, and took it into the editing room and finished it up. That's not it. Once the photographing was complete, I was able to take it into the computer and start editing. I edited using Adobe Premiere Pro on the Creative Cloud, which I was able to find a way to manipulate it as cell animation, as in stop motion animation. And that is what Round Jon became. Thanks for watching. Yeah, have a good day.